What's up guys, this is your head coach Kuya for Smash Ultimate, and for today's class we're going to go over 20 beginner tips. This will be a lightning round style guide covering a variety of tips when starting out in Smash Ultimate. These tips are things I wish I heard when starting my competitive journey, so these notes will help you reach your goals, innovate your playstyle, and solve all your problems, probably. We'll start off with a quick thank you, and then a preface, and then we'll go over 5 controller tips, 5 character tips, 5 fighting tips, and 5 mentality tips. If you happen to have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them down below and I'll be happy to respond to them. And while you're at it, please consider subscribing, liking, all that good jazz. But first, I do want to say thank you. We hit 200 subscribers. Thank you for supporting the channel. Your views, comments, likes, and subs truly help us out. Thank you for allowing me to continue talking about Smash Ultimate for you. I genuinely enjoy making this content. And even if we only had like 5 people watching it, I would still do this. So seeing 200 subscribers is a little mind-boggling. It's kind of hard to believe. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Let's continue growing. Hopefully we could shoot for 300 subs soon. But yeah, I'm very grateful for all of you so far. So going back to our schedule, my preface is that I have an organized beginner tips. A lot of videos that I see online, is like 100 tips for you or like 100 tricks you should know. A lot of these videos tend to just fire away a lot of random tips with no real structure. They're kind of just like spamming tips at you. And I'm not the biggest fan of that. I do prefer a lot of structure in my educational content. I want to have some sort of order. So because of that, I split up my tips in 4 different categories. The first one will be controls. Then the second section will be character specific tips, then fighting related tips, and then mentality related tips. I'll try to get through these like a lightning round because I tend to yap a lot. So I have a timer with me. I'm gonna try to do 30 seconds per tip, which isn't as much time as I want to like expound on certain things. But we're gonna freestyle it and see what happens. So 3, 2, 1. The first tip is to turn tap jump off. If you are newer to the game, turning off tap jump can make you stay in control more consistently. This means if you turn it off, you have no misinputted jumps when you're doing your up B or your up air. You don't have any accidental double jumps when you don't want to double jump. And you can't easily tilt left or right while jumping, which means your aerial movement is a little bit hindered if you have tap jump on. Turning it off and learning how to primarily jump with a button resolves all of this. But if you do like tap jump, that's okay too. As long as you're comfortable with it in your controls, I'm okay with that. Number 2 is the short hop macro. Beginners should be aware and confident with the short hop aerial macro, where it's jump button plus A equals an instant short hop aerial. Most beginners struggle to time short hops with aerials, but knowing this shortcut makes the learning curve a bit smoother and getting more used to the controls. Tip number 3, rolling is not a movement option. I see a lot of beginners to intermediate clients even using rolling as a means to approach opponents. The main disadvantage of this is that it stales your dodges, which means you move a lot slower and you have less iframes when you commit to a dodge. You're inherently slower than compared to just like walking or running towards your opponent, and it's very committal with a lot of end lag. And because of these 3 main problems, remember that rolling is for evading, not for engaging. Tip number 4 is to do your quick out of shield options. Naturally letting go of shield takes 11 frames. To circumvent this lag, you can do the following immediately from shield. So while you're holding shield, you do an up smash or an up B with no frame delay. You do a roll or a spot dodge, which is also no frame delay. You could do an aerial out of shield with the short hop macro that we talked about. it'll be a 3-frame delay because of jump squat, or you could go for a grab, which is 4-frame delayed, if assuming someone hit your shield right after or right before. And the last controller tip is to drill your recovery. Many beginning players either forget how to use resources to make it back to the stage, or they only know one way to make it back. It is extremely valuable to go into the training mode to lab out your recoveries. I want you to test out how far you can recover from. You could test out any tricky movement that you could diversify your recoveries with. And I want you to familiarize yourself with at least 3 optimal routes from recovering from off stage. Our first character tip number 6, do not worry about tier lists when picking a main. It's really easy to stare at a tier list, look at all the S tiers, and just become a Sonic main or a Steve main. The problem with this is that you are not worried about your own playstyle, and you're not exploring how you want to play a game, and you're not trying to discover a character that complements your preferred playstyle. The tier list is a valuable resource, but I do want you to consider how you like to play, or what qualities do you value most in a character, and if you have any preferences for a particular franchise. Tip number 7 is to not worry about tier lists when playing against a high or top tier. If you find yourself fighting against a higher tiered character than your character, do not let that negatively influence your game plans. Smash Ultimate is probably the most balanced Smash game out there, so you can make it work with just about anyone. If you see like a Joker online, do not be intimidated just because they're ranked a bit higher on the tier list. I played against thousands of high tier mains, but the ones that stand out to me the most is the really good low tier mains because they always give me a harder time. Number 8 is to simplify characters. There's over 80 characters in this game, but most of the cast can be categorized into the following buckets. Maybe one wants to get up close and personal for high damage combos, one of them wants to use large disjointed hitboxes to cover space, or another one wants to pressure you with well-placed projectiles. Don't stress yourself out with trying to learn every single character's ins and outs in this game. Instead, identify that character's main game plan, then learn that matchup naturally. Tip number 9 is 2 characters max. If I ask you who do you main in Smash Ultimate and you name 5 characters in front of me, I would say you don't have a main at all. Spreading out your experience across 5 different characters makes your growth with each one much slower compared to focusing on just 1 or 2. So think about a Pokemon team without EXP share. It's okay to have fun with a lot of characters casually, but if you want to get a bit more competitive, I would, for the sake of training purposes, stick with 2 characters max. Tip number 10, to have an honest trial week. So let's imagine you do have 5 different characters that you want to main, but you don't know who to pick. Play one of them exclusively for 7 days and reflect on your experience playing as them. Continue this trend with every character that you have on your list until you have enough data to choose between 1 or 2 of them. It took me personally 2 to 3 months to confidently main Yoshi because a lot of the characters when I first got this game was really appealing to me, but after reflecting, I stuck with Yoshi. Okay, fighting tips time. Tip number 11, do not have the high ground. Positionally speaking, being directly above someone is worse than being directly underneath someone. The person above you tends to have less options when they're airborne. You're prone to being sharked when you're on a platform, which means like the person below you is having a hitbox that goes through the platform, but you can't really hit from over the platform. It's really difficult to pressure someone that's underneath the platform anyways, and being knocked down on a platform is generally a bad position too. This is just a simple rule of thumb. Try not to be on the platforms for too long or being in the air for too long above your opponent, but there are situational exceptions and external factors to consider. Tip number 12, hyperfixation on spiking. When you knock someone off stage, you don't have to attempt a spike edgeguard every single time. I see people doing this all the time. I get it, it's fancy, but sometimes if you really want to take the stock, a simpler, long-lasting attack can be just enough to guarantee that stock. If you try to spike too predictably, you can even get reversed and get spiked to yourself. If you really do want to spike somebody, focus on observing how that opponent likes to recover first, and then place your hitbox properly. Tip number 13, grabbing is in this game. Most beginners completely forget that every character has a grab, and they only use grabs when they're going for a certain combo. However, grabbing is a universal counter to shielding, which is another thing that most beginners don't really do that much. But when newer players start to fight someone that does shield, they lose because they don't know how to beat shielding. They never practice implementing grabs to predict their opponent's shields. So when you are starting out, try to learn, your character's grab range, grab combos, which grabs can take stocks at high percent, and try to study those things. Tip number 14 is panic dodging. If you tend to mash rolls or spot dodges after whiffing an attack or the opponent is too close, you are a panic dodger. It's a quick evasive option that can get you out of sticky situations, but it does build a bad habit of relying too much on dodge and pray it worked mentality. So instead of instantly spot dodging or rolling, try to think about other fast options that you do after whiffing, like jumping, jabbing, or just running away to help break that habit. Tip number 15 is smash attacking at 0. It's not a good thing. Beginner brains will think smash attack equals big damage. The risk reward of going for smash attacks at low percents is just not worth it. If it lands, cool, you did 20% to me. That's it. If you miss, you're in a lot of end lag, and the opponent or me, I get a free punish. Use your faster options like aerials and tilt attacks to rack up damage first, and then use smash attacks at higher percents where landing a smash attack can net you a stock instead of just 20%. Now to the mentality notes. So tip number 16, GSP is just a number. Making it into Elite Smash is a very healthy goal to set while learning the game. I highly recommend it, but it becomes unhealthy when you equate losing GSP to losing skill in Smash. GSP does not equal how good you are as a player, no matter what. If you lose a match, think about what you did well, what you could work on more, and what you learned for if you play against that character again. If you learned something new, you never really lost, and if you keep this mentality, your GSP will naturally increase over time. Tip number 17 is to balance offline and online Smash, if possible. Both offline and online has their pros and cons, which can be its own video in the future. I was grateful to have a lot of friends and a community that ran local tournaments, as well as having ample time to practice online. And being able to experience Smash Ultimate both ways helped me gain insights to boost my improvement. So if you're able to reach out to your local community or host your own tournaments, try to do a little bit of both to get a more well-rounded training. If you want Fit Gamer and I to host mock tournaments, please comment down below, because if there's a demand for it, we could host it. I'll be more than happy to host a tournament. It's super cool. Please let us know down below. Tip number 18 is a manage practice time with self-care time. There were nights where I would stay up grinding online matches with the insatiable urge to become the best player in the world. Then I would wake up the next day feeling terrible and losing focus at tournaments. I'm underperforming, I'm misinputting, I'm stuttering my words because I'm nervous. If you do not take care, or you have to take care of yourself, you have to eat well, sleep well, take care of your hygiene, exercise, finish your other responsibilities first, and then grind and practice with intention. Being the best version of yourself as a Smash competitor is top priority. So don't degen too hard on it. Tip number 19, gaming burnout and healthy breaks. When trying to improve in Smash, you will hit a mental block or some problem that you just can't solve at that moment. Maybe you can't connect a certain combo properly, or you're always messing up a certain input. It's important to study and practice for your goals, but, sorry, there's a fly here. But make sure to give yourself a break away from the game so that your relaxed brain can solidify those skills much more effectively. It's much better to grace yourself with a break than trying to cram as much information as possible with no breaks. It just becomes a lot more difficult for you to really digest all the information that you're trying to implement. So really give yourself a break when needed. And lastly, tip number 20, enjoy the process. You're going to meet new friends, you're going to experience really cool events, and you're going to perform things in game that you never knew was possible. But if you get too caught up on solely improving and just being too much of a hard-headed, like, grind only mentality, you're going to miss out on what's happening around you. You're not going to be present. Please remember that improving takes time, and you'll get better if you just trust your training process, trust your schedule, and just enjoy and have fun while playing Smash. You could do both. You could grind and have fun at the same time. It's perfectly fine. If you do need personal coaching, one-on-one coaching, or you have an organization or a group that needs coaching, you could join our Fit Gamer Discord for more information. For not only Smash Ultimate, I'll be your coach, but we also have other games like Valorant, TFT, and Rocket League. If you're ever interested, just join and we'll be happy to talk to you and for any like questions you have. And that is all 20 tips for beginners. I did go a little bit over 30 seconds with some of the tips, but I try to keep it as lightning round as possible while still being concise. Thank you all for watching. If you want to see another video from me, I'll link it right here. Probably pick a pretty cool one. And again, if you want to sub, you should click right here. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.